Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Pros in Politics Podcast, where we are polished and poised for greatness and impact. My name is Kahala, and I'm your host. And I'm so excited as we are now in season 5. Yes, the premiere was last week, and it was just me, but we are back with a new set. Yay! And with our very first guest, we are back into the politics, ladies and gentlemen, as we bring back my dear friend, Senator Chris Belt.
Yay!
Yay!
I am
Senator.
happy to be back.
I'm so happy that you're back.
Yeah.
It took a minute.
It took a while, but we made it work, right?
Yes,
Good,
we made it
good,
work,
good.
but you're busy.
And you are too.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Like you were so busy. And the 103rd General
Oh, wow.
Assembly has
Wow.
closed. Congratulations.
Yes. A lot of hard work.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of hard work went into the beginning of the 103rd, but a lot of good outcomes that came out of the work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And before we get into the 103rd, Victor,
Yes.
Senator,
Yes.
husband,
Yes.
father,
Yes.
soon to be father of the bride,
Ooh.
Victor.
Right. So anytime, and you know this, anytime that you're on the ballot, it's a tough time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and even though you feel confident of what you've done, you never know how those things play out.
Absolutely.
And so just being on the ballot in and of itself brings anxiety. And then you're at a midterm, all right?
Yes.
Midterms are traditionally, historically bad for the ruling party or the majority party.
Mm-hmm.
And so those things go into all of the makeup of going into a midterm.
And all the anxiety.
All the anxiety and all the things that and this was a very weird midterm to me. Nothing
22.
was really happening, and you just didn't know how it was going to play out.
Especially with Georgia.
Especially with Georgia going
Uh-huh.
on, and just where we are in the world of politics. It was a funny time, but to that came out, as you would say, the victor. And 4 more years to get things done for the 57th, in particular, in the state of Illinois in general.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I was rooting
Absolutely.
and posting and doing, and I still do. What, 4 more years, as
4
they
more
say.
years.
And I'm still rooting and posting.
That's right.
Okay, and I will continue to do
That's
that
right.
because, you are special to my family and I.
Thank you.
And you are doing an amazing job. What did you say? It's not always about merit.
It's not.
It should be about merit.
Right, but it's not always.
It's not always about merit, but the best man won that.
Absolutely. I feel that way too. Not just because it's me. I just feel like the work warranted that. You know, we really put in work. You see it in the underserved communities. You see it in Cahokia Heights. You look at Frank Holden State Park. You see things there. You move up to Mascoutah. We help bring Boeing here with money that we put there. You look at the EDGE credit in throughout St. Clair County, throughout the 57 district, and you see what the EDGE credit has helped spur business, economic development. I think we did a phenomenal job, and you got to understand we came out of COVID doing these things. We kept doors open, right?
Absolutely.
And then not to mention what the investment we did in education. So I felt like 4 more years was warranted. Yeah.
I love it.
Absolutely.
I love it. Well, congratulations again. We are so happy and so proud. And we love Senator Belt and his family here at Pros in Politics Podcast. So,
awesome.
Because y'all got some pretty members.
Absolutely.
And some pretty members.
And some pink and green and some crimson and cream going on.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. And early congratulations, as I just said, about to be father of the bride.
Oh, wow. Yeah. July 2nd.
Yes. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Early.
Thank you.
For our young soror and for the mother of the bride.
Well, young frat.
I know.
he's my frat brother that she's marrying. So we're keeping it in the family.
Yes, and two really great families.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a podcast, and we talk about pearls and politics and everything in between. Two great families.
Yeah.
So that means a lot. I know my father felt like nobody was ever going to be good enough.
That's right.
And I know you feel that way.
That's
but
right. That's right.
Great guy.
Great guy. Great guy.
Family.
The interesting thing about him is I knew him first because I was over Guy Wright. He was a Kappa Leaguer. And so years and years ago, I was standing in front of him, teaching him and talking to him about life lessons. And fast forward, I hope some of them stick.
That's right. That's right. Well, congratulations.
Also, yeah.
Fifth budget.
So that's the fifth balanced budget.
Yes, the fifth balanced budget in the state of Illinois. And you had a strong hand in that, Chair.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
So as you just stated, we just touched on our fiscal year 2024. We got the fifth balanced budget. This budget is a compassionate budget. This budget is a responsible budget. This budget pours into early childhood education. Absolutely. It pours into higher education. It pours into workforce development. It pours into public safety. With all we had to work with, this was a really good job of real, and you know this because you were up there and you were involved in it, but you see the work that go into a budget. It starts when the governor puts his proposal forward in February, I think, and then from that moment, the legislature takes over, and it's a lot of stuff behind the scenes, negotiating behind the scenes, and then all of a sudden we reappear like late April and May, and then it's like, everything is 10 hours, 12 hours a day, and the budgeteers are there, and you're meeting with everybody, and it's a tedious process. Yeah, but there again, I'm very pleased with the outcome. Fifth budget, balanced budget, and a lot of people ask, what is a budget, right?
Right.
In terms of,
it's all about education.
It's all about
and
education.
That's why we're here.
And really that budget, when you're looking at the government side or relative to government, what the budget really is representing a legal authority to spend the funds.
Okay.
And we go through this whole process because we want to prioritize and allocate those funds. And once it passes both the Senate and it passes the House and the governor signs it, it becomes a legal document then to spend those funds, right? And that's all a budget is. That's what it is. And the budget is also important to the state.
But why is it so important? Because I think people think of like their budget, right? And how much I'm spending on gas and how much the groceries are and how much diapers are. But I think a lot of people don't really understand that the state's budget matters to you.
Of course.
And so please explain to us why I shouldn't be like, why do I care about that?
Right. You hear a lot of talk around the budget. It can be contentious. It can get really, really heated. And then you always hear with the budget, eventually comes a balanced budget or talk about a balanced budget. And why should it matter to you or anyone else is because a balanced budget, we mentioned, I don't know if we mentioned on camera, but in our prep up, we were talking about the fifth balanced budget and 8 credit increases, credit rating increase. And so that's why it matters, because along with those balanced budgets come credit rating increases. And those things matter because it correlates or it comes over as low interest rates, which saves you money, right?
Absolutely.
And your ability to grow your economy That should matter to you. And those things come out when you are moving your state forward as we are, right? And it's just been a great partnership with the governor, Governor Pritzker, and the General Assembly over the last 5 years, because you got to realize what we inherited. The state of Illinois was coming from two years without a budget.
You took the words right out of my
Right.
mouth. I was waiting.
Right.
I was like, because I don't think it's a far cry for, at least for the state of Illinois, and this can educate any state, right?
Right.
We came from a place
Right.
with no balanced budget, and there was the issue with state employees, whether they were not going to get paid.
Absolutely.
There was the issue of, the comptroller's office, I think, not
Absolutely.
paying the bill. Like, it was a disaster.
It was bad, and all you had to do was drive around and look at the agencies, look at your state parks. They weren't being cut.
They weren't getting cut.
Right.
Oh,
It was a mess.
Yes.
And so that's why, and statutorily, you're supposed to have a budget, an agreed upon budget by the time you adjourn. And we went 2 years without one. And so in a sense, you had no budget. You had nothing to pay the agencies. And if the agencies aren't getting paid, your workers are in danger of not getting paid. And it was a really, really bad situation. But fast forward from 2019 to now, fiscal responsibility,
Absolutely.
credit rating increase. I mean, we were at junk bond status.
Yes.
And now look at us. Look at us now. And so, that's what it's all about.
And I love how you were able to lay that out, right? Because, of course, you have those who love the budget, and then you have those who don't. But to be able to actually have someone who was a part of that, right? A state senator, an appropriations chair, sit here on this platform and say, this is why it's important. Look at where we came from. Look at how it impacts the credit ratings and the things that impact your day-to-day life. Your ability to be able to, well, I don't really want to go out and get a loan right now because those interest rates are through the roof. All those things really impact your day-to-day life, whether we want to think about it or not. And we want to be educated and we want to be informed. And I love how you said that it's a compassionate budget.
It is.
Because this is a compassionate administration.
Yes.
That's one thing that I really love. I also remember when the state parks and the highways weren't getting mowed and the rest stops were closed. Remember that?
Absolutely.
And the rest stops were closed. I remember the cutting in funding for compassionate things.
Absolutely.
Meals on Wheels.
Oh, absolutely.
Daycare.
Right.
So that way I can go and get my license, or I can go and do what I need to do and get assistance in being able to find daycare for my child so I can get my certificate, so I can get a better job. Right. And so we have a very compassionate governor and lieutenant governor, and in many respects, a very compassionate General Assembly. And I think that is important because we're supposed to care about people.
Absolutely.
You represent people. Like, that's the whole point. You vote on the budget, but we vote for you. And it's supposed to be what's in my best interest.
Right.
And I think we really have to focus on that and kind of get back to that. What did you say? It's supposed to be about merit, right? It's supposed to be.
Right.
It's supposed to be, are you properly representing me and my children? Right. And when you say it's a compassionate budget, how, like you just mentioned, education, how has this year's budget helped education? Because I know that used to be your jam.
You know what? I was the chair of the Senate Education Committee. I'm still a member of the committee. I have an affinity for children. I have a passion for giving them the access that they need. And what better passport, if you will, than education? And the governor has an initiative, a Smart Start. In fact, I think it was last week that we were in Cahokia Heights, in Cahokia Union School District 187 at Maplewood Elementary School to talk about the Smart Start program. And I love the name. Smart Start. Now, there's a African proverb that says, if you think education is expensive, if you think education is expensive, try ignorance, right? Mm-hmm. And so what that means is we should be proactive.
Absolutely.
We should be investing in our kids, in our schools, and we need to be pouring into them, because one way or another, we're going to spend those precious tax dollars.
Absolutely.
And either we're going to pour into them and be proactive and build them up.
Or pour into IDOC.
Yes. And that's exactly right. And all the things that crimes against property and all the things that come with crime, and how it brings down the value of a neighborhood, and all those other things that go along with crime, right? And so Smart Start is the idea from the governor where we put $250 million into the idea that any child, 3 or 4 year old, should have access to preschool. And all the studies line up and trends show that if you have high quality and consistent programming for our 3 and 4 year olds, they knock it out the park, right? And it follows them throughout their academic career. It follows them throughout life, right? So that it seems so trivial that we should be doing this, right? Why wouldn't you? But
right, because I have a 4-year-old right now, and I'm thinking about,
right.
I can't imagine if she wasn't in school right now.
Right.
How would she be ready for August?
Exactly.
Without that.
And all of the tests, the trends and the reports, the research show that kids, when they are enrolled in high quality, consistent programming and education at an early age, their literacy skills are through the roof. Their mathematic skills are through the roof. That's what we want. And so in that budget is $250 million for the Smart Start program.
$250 million invested in our children.
Right. Then we leave early childhood. We go to higher elementary, K through 12. And so we said, okay, the $350 million for evidence-based funding, it's in the budget, right? And the $350 million goes to the school districts farthest away from adequacy. It doesn't matter if you're an urban school district or a rural school district.
Okay.
It goes to the school districts that need the money the most.
Okay.
Right?
So practical.
Practical, right?
So practical.
Right. Then we go to higher ed, and there's $100 million for MAP, Monetary Award Program. You know, for first-time college student, low-income college student, $100 million. We funded the AIM High program for first-time, full-time, merit-based college, merit-based, right? College students. And so all of those things got funded. And so when you talk about from the beginning all the way through, we did that, right? This, again, is a compassionate budget. It's a fiscal responsible budget. There's this fancy name called the Budget Stabilization Fund. We got $2 billion in there. Now, you and I call it the Rainy Day Fund.
Okay.
But it's the Budget Stabilization Fund, $2 billion. So if something goes boom, we're able to draw from it. $2 billion in a rainy day fund, right? We funded the pension $200 million
you keep reading
in addition to what was required for us to fund it. We put $200 million more on top of it
than what was required.
Yeah.
That was going to be my next question, because everybody has a pension issue, right? Everybody wants to talk bad about the pension system.
Right.
An additional $200 million.
Right. So again, we've done, I think we've done a yeoman's job. in moving this thing forward. You're going to always have naysayers. You're going to always have people to say this or that, but when you're at that table, when you're trying to, do the most you can, have the greatest impact, I think we came out pretty good.
I agree. I know this was my first time really, not of course, obviously, being involved in the process, but for lack of a better word, kind of being involved in the process. Yeah. Those hearings are no joke. I mean, your armpits are sweating and you're sitting here trying to figure out what somebody's going to ask you. I survived it, right? But I can appreciate the process more. And again, that's the purpose of the platform, to be able to provide educational information.
Right.
So people know, because a lot of times people are like, I don't care about the budget, or oh, what does that mean to me, or whatever. But if someone can explain to you where we came from, where they weren't even mowing the highway.
That's right.
Now the highways are mowed, the rest stops are back open, and now $250 million invested in our 3 and 4 year olds.
Right.
I mean, how can you argue with that?
It seems like you couldn't, but trust me, there are people will, and
that's why you're here,
and that's why we're right,
and
this is the platform, right? Again, that 250 will make sure that there's positionings opening, spots for kids to go to school, seats, so to speak, teachers, and it will pay wages, and it's just a really good concept to put 3 and 4 year olds, give them access to schooling if they want it, if the parents want it, it's there.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
I am very proud to say that we have 8 credit increases, that we've come so far and are progressing so far into and investing in the future of the state. Because
Absolutely.
I mean, I live here, right? So my family lives here, your family lives here. So we want what's best for everyone, of course. But of course you want what's best for home. And so moving forward, though, of course, now you guys are, it's done, right?
Right.
And so now a lot of people are back in their districts, right, working with their constituents at home. So you've been very busy.
Yes.
Because I stand, okay? So what summer of 2023, what is Senator Belt and your, coordinating representative, like what are you all up to?
You know what, we have, we're obviously we're going around to, like yesterday I was at Gulfstream. They're expanding 200 new jobs, $28.5 million expansion, 200 jobs, and they have a pipeline in the school districts, the Cave in Belleville. I know that they're tied into Cahokia. The actual Gulfstream campus is in Cahokia. So, and again, they took advantage of the EDGE program to help with the expansion. So we was at Mid-America last week, right? They're opening 2 terminals at Mid-America Airport. And so I'm going around, we're getting invited to see the fruits, so to speak. And it's a wonderful thing because with these expansions and with these ribbon cuttings, they mean jobs and opportunities and those
and
are
revenue.
And revenue.
2
Revenue.
terminals?
Absolutely.
Revenue.
Absolutely. And Allegiant, they were talking about more flights and international flights. What? Right. This was at Mid-America. And so I'm always going around and around to these ribbon cuttings or these events to see those investments made. as harvest time comes, so to speak, and you see it, and that's a great thing. So I'm doing that. I'm going and talking to stakeholders, mayors, and things like that about things brought back to the district, and it's just a busy time.
It is. So whether you're in Springfield or in your district, it's a busy time.
Right. People think when you get released or when you adjourn for the summer, it's done. People think that you're there from January to the last day of May statutorily, and when you come back, it's nothing to do. That's not, and I know that's where the idea of a part-time position comes in there, because technically you're in Springfield. But when you come home, you're dealing with things, you're dealing with constituents, you're dealing with events. It's just as busy being home than it is going to committees, being on the Senate floor, meeting constituents up in Springfield, meeting it's it's still
365.
It never stops.
365, and that's what people need to know, because again, you have the impression of, oh, like you said, well, they're not in Springfield, they're not working. When I know,
right,
and I never worked in Springfield as a legislator, but it is a never-ending daily process serving the people that elected you.
It really is. It really is. And even people think when we're in Springfield, we're playing cards. They just don't have an appreciation of what those days are like and how grueling those days are, right?
I remember being up at 2:00 in the morning working, watching via the internet, the House in session at 2:00 in the morning. So I am fully aware of the evenings. I had to tell I said, don't worry, husband. I said, I won't have to stay the night in Springfield. If they gonna recess, they're gonna adjourn, and so that now I don't have to do that on a Wednesday evening. But again, it is. And in a good way, right? It's the grind, because you wouldn't do it if you didn't love it and if you didn't appreciate it. But no, it is work.
It is work, and the fact you're doing it at 2, 3, 4, you're getting the job done, right? And that's not a bad thing. You got to do your work. You were sent there to do. But it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And your day starts at probably 8:30. And it goes through, I'm on 7 committees, and depending on what day it is, you're in committee, and some of those committee hearings go all day. And then after your committees, you may have another you may have hearings, right? And so you're doing that, and then after that, it's just and you may go to the floor early. And the closer you get to April and May, you may come back to the floor, and you may be there to 2 in the morning.
After you've caucused.
After you've caucused twice, and it's a long grind. It's a long, and to your point, it's no days off.
Well,
there's no days off.
You are doing an amazing job.
Thank you.
And we appreciate you very much.
Thank you.
The hard work that you are doing for the 57th District.
Thank you.
And we are, again, so happy that you were victorious.
Absolutely.
And now at least that part is about 3 1/3 years off.
Right.
But look, it's already.
It moves so fast. For
those that are running
it moves.
Next November.
You're on the clock. You're never not on the clock. I mean,
it's almost time for petitions.
It'll be time for petitions later this year. Next year, we're going to the federal election with the presidential election. Look, this is my camera. We have to vote. I say it in our conversations. You have to vote.
Absolutely.
In Illinois, because of the General Assembly, because of the governor, we haven't taken away voters' rights. We haven't given in to the voter suppression that's occurring across the nation. We've expanded your rights. And so for me, if you do not vote in the state of Illinois, you just don't want to.
Absolutely.
Right? And if you are a person who's locked up, the moment you get free, the moment you are released, your rights are given back to you. You don't have to do anything, right?
Right.
They're just, you go get registered, and then you can move forward with it. But, you know, speaking of the midterm was November 8th, I think it was.
Yes.
Early voting started in St. Clair County, I think, on September 29th. Right. So you got from September all the way to the day of. Okay, so you may say, okay, I don't have a car. I don't want to go to the courthouse or go. You fill your ballot out. It'll come to your house. You fill your application out. Your ballot will come to your house.
Absolutely.
You know, you may say, hey, look, I'll go. I got a ride or I have transportation, but I don't want to go inside a voting place. That's fine. Curbside. You know, so if you don't want to vote in Illinois, if you don't vote, you really just don't want to. And my task and my charge to each and every viewer, please vote. Every election, every subsequent election is important, not just the presidential election. You know, we take voting elections off. The midterm is notorious. We won't vote on, we don't come out.
I'm so happy I never had to. I was always on a presidential cycle.
So there's you had bumps.
Oh,
you but every election is the most important election.
Absolutely.
The very next one, right? You can't say, well, the presidential election is important. It is important.
It is.
The next one is important.
Right.
The midterm is important. And all of them are important.
Every level of government. And that is what I stress until I'm out of breath.
Yeah.
Local.
Yep.
State.
Yep.
Federal. They are equally important.
They are.
And so many people don't understand that what goes on locally and on your state level impacts you more.
Yeah.
Or at least as much.
Yep.
Well, the White House and who the president is. But you know what? It really matters who your senator is.
Yeah.
It really matters who your mayor is.
Yep.
It really matters.
You're right.
Who your county officials are. So a lot of people just don't understand that because it's such a narrow view of what our democracy really is. And we really have to change that because if we don't, we will continue to find ourselves in many of the vicious cycles that we find ourselves in. Or at the very least, dealing with some folks that we don't like to deal with. Right? Because they don't have our best interests at heart.
Right.
And the only way to change that, if you don't like what you see, is to vote.
You have to vote. You just have to. You have to exercise your right to the ballot. Right? You know, free and open elections, that's one of the linchpins of a free society.
Absolutely.
You know, right?
And I keep saying absolutely over and over, but so my grandmother, Barbara Maxwell, passed away in April, 95 years old. She would have been 96 in May. And I, along with the Magnificent Seven, her grandchildren, we stood there, and I was the one who spoke. And I remember saying in my tribute to my grandmother, how one day I asked her, I was like, Granny, you gonna vote, you know? And like I said, it was selfishly that I was asking that question because I was on the ballot. So she told me, she said, grandbaby, look, there was a time that I could not vote. So she said, as a Black person, as a woman, there was a time in her lifetime. She passed when I was 45. So I knew this woman. So really, in essence, in my lifetime, there are people living and breathing right now that, whether it was based on their gender or their race, could not vote. And so why would I let my woke grandmama, Granny was woke, why would I let her legacy die knowing full well that there was a period of time because of who she was, she could not vote.
Mm-hmm.
So every time I can vote, I'm going to vote.
And as you should. As you should. And that's the travesty of it. You know, you think history is so far away from us, but it's not. Women didn't get the right to vote in this country to what, 1922? 1920, 1922. You think Martin Luther King was born in 1929. Anne Frank was born in 1929, right? Mm-hmm. So it wasn't that long ago that you couldn't even vote.
Yeah, suffrage wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't. And so you really have to underscore it, and you have to be intentional, and you have to be deliberate, and you have to go out and exercise your right to vote. Right? You gotta do it. Mm-hmm. Right? And because it's just not gonna, it may never feel like it's the right time. You have to set some time off in your day, like you do with everything else that you want to do.
Exactly.
And if you do it a couple times, it becomes habit forming. Mm-hmm. And you know, I gotta vote. I gotta get there. I gotta give my voice to this cause. And that's what voting is. You're giving your voice to what you believe in. You should never forsake that.
No, and I love to vote early.
Yeah, I do too.
I love to
Get
vote
it out
early.
the way.
Let me just, I got a couple minutes.
Right.
I got off the highway. Let me hop on over here.
Go get it done.
To this,
get it done.
Voting booth. And
it's so strange to me that growing up, you only had one day to vote. Mm-hmm. That day. Whatever that day was.
It seems such. Now talk about a far off. Now
right.
That's what seems a far off. To right. Only have
one day.
I'm like, man.
One day.
What if you got a flat, or what if your baby got sick?
All of those things could happen that could throw you off, or stop you, or prohibit you from going to that poll on that one day. You could be sick, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. And so, like you said, in our lifetime, it was one day, but it seems like, oh my God, you have time, you have multiple days, you have months, mm-hmm. weeks to get it done. Mm-hmm. And no matter where I go, that's part of my message now is we have to vote. Mm-hmm. We have to. Yeah.
And we thank you for expanding
mm-hmm.
the ability,
mm-hmm.
expanding the right.
Right.
Because again, like you said, there are no excuses.
No.
No excuses. None whatsoever.
No. Most of us, I would assume, we have access to a cell phone with internet capabilities. Mm-hmm. You have in your hand or in your pocket something that we couldn't dream of growing up, right?
Uh-huh.
Right? I have that conversation with my kids sometimes. We had a library card in college. We had to go, right. And you have everything. If you want to know where my closest or nearest voting poll is, you just pull it up, mm-hmm. right? If you want to know when or the dates for I could vote, you just pull it, early voting. You just pull it up. It doesn't require anything. You got it. You got the power in the palm of your hand.
Who
literally.
Are the candidates?
Right.
What do they stand for?
What do they stand for?
Where do they,
right.
all of that.
Right.
Where do they stand on the issues that are most important to
me? Absolutely. Go to their pages.
Where's that merit at?
Right. Go to their pages, research them, look them up. And then the other thing is, for me, if it's not 10 out of 10, because we always, and I said this on the last time, we're always looking for perfect. Mm-hmm. We throw the proverbial baby out with the bathwater if, this person, candidate A, only agreed with 7 out of 10 things I wanted. Mm-hmm. And the other one is worse than candidate A. Candidate B is really neither one so I'm not doing anything. You're never going to get 100%.
No.
Right? No one gets 100% in of anything. Right? Mm-hmm. And so you have to, we have to stop being so finicky mm-hmm. and really look at it and understand you're not going to get everything. The whole political process for any elected official. Makes it almost impossible for that to happen.
Because
Right.
you're human.
Right.
And I can, speak to that because, I appreciate you and people who felt that I did a good job, but I never purported to be perfect
Right.
or to have made every perfect decision.
Right.
But I do feel that I did an excellent job.
Right.
And so is that what who's married, what we said, who's married is there,
Right.
who's doing an excellent job? Now, that's what you should look to because you can't even look unto yourself for perfection.
Right.
So if none of us are perfect,
Right.
we're all human. And that's one thing that I love about people like yourself and some of your colleagues. You are so personable, right? And that should help us as your constituents to be able to understand you better, to give grace and a lot of other things because you are so not stuffy. We laugh, we talk,
Right.
and we hang out or whatever the
Right.
situation may be. And so you have to be able to say, well, this person is human.
Right.
They're a dad, they're a husband, they're this, they're that. They play baseball or, she goes shopping at
Right.
the St. Clair Square or whatever.
Right.
Just like you run into folks.
Right.
And so you have to be able to say, again, what my mom used to say, 4 out of 5 ain't bad.
It ain't bad. Not at
That's
all.
that old school East St. Louis
Right.
mama. Well, Kahala, he ain't, but 4 out of 5 ain't bad.
Right.
And so you have to be able to internalize that in where it's relevant.
Right.
And again, you're never going to find perfection, but who lines up best with what you believe in?
There it is.
Who lines up best with what you think is important?
Right.
And then that's the person
Right.
that you vote for.
Absolutely. We got to get beyond personal likes. You see in sports all the time, these athletes, whether it's any professional sports, baseball, basketball, football, and once the career's over, you go back and read, and you'll read that the coach didn't even, and the player didn't even speak. But they came together for a common goal, and it was to win, right? You don't necessarily have to like the person that's running, but to what you said earlier, see how what their platform is lining to yours, right?
Exactly.
That really should be how and I know we are human and it gets out there or we tend to, I don't like him or her or this or that. But how am I voting? What is my voting record? Right. In regards to those things that should matter to you. That's what you should judge me on or judge a candidate on.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, you're doing a great job.
I appreciate it.
And I appreciate you coming back
Absolutely.
on the platform.
Absolutely.
From season 1 to season 5.
Season 1 to season 5. I mean, time has really gone. Let me congratulate you on from season 1 to season 5. Thank you for the platform. Thank you for following your instincts, taking the leap forward to do this. You make it look easy, but it's a lot to this, right? And it's your baby. And whenever you have something and you present to the world, you get sensitive about it, right? Because I understand, right? I wrote a book back in 2008, and I was like, do you like it? And this, that, and the other. But from season 1 to season 5, you have a terrific platform. You bring education, right? Your whole move is to inform, and there's nothing better than an informed, constituent-based, informed consumer. And so, thank you for that. And just a real quick question: what made you want to create a platform such as this?
Again, well, you said it best, to be able to inform and educate. So particularly in the area of politics, I remember in 2020, the African American community, the statistics are there. Would you say you could pull up your phone and Google it? We were targeted with political misinformation, and I was insulted. Why us? Why do you feel that we are naive or gullible or uneducated. Why would you do that? And I said, you know what? I want to develop a platform, and I prayed. I was like, Lord, I'm looking for a God idea. I'm looking for a God idea. And I prayed for years for this God idea. Didn't know what it was going to be.
Right.
Actually wasn't even sure I was going to get the answer. Like, maybe you're just supposed to keep doing what you're doing. And that's just what it is. And after running in 20, and then after, again, seeing how we were targeted, and then seeing how, on the pearls side of it, seeing how we are often don't have the information we need when it comes to mental health in the Black community, when it comes to financial literacy, where to get capital or how to open your business, and just seeing a lack of support from Jazz Brooks to Tawana Story. Not that they're not supported, but Black women in business, a lot of times we don't get the support that we need, and other communities of people, as they should, support each other. So to provide the information and the support and the political information that people need to, what did you say, go to that ballot box and make an informed decision, because it's like you said, it's not just enough to be registered. You have to vote. And a lot of times people don't vote because they're not educated. They don't understand that if I don't vote, this could get bad. If I don't vote, I could lose what I have. If I don't vote and these interest rates skyrocket, and I'm talking about I want a new house, I'm not going to be able to do that. Like, life, a lot of that revolves around our democracy.
That's right.
And to be able to provide a platform that people could actually be entertained, and it's lighthearted, and it's not stuffy, and just to be able to get some information, to be able to have what you need to live a better life. Polished and poised. That's what we're trying to do.
It's again, it's a great platform, and I always say, information, once you receive it, information is never to be sat on. You have to disseminate it. Right, you think in terms of an infection. Once you're infected, you have to spread it.
Well, we are spreading. We are spreading our information, and I appreciate all the support and all the likes and all the times that you've watched the program.
Absolutely.
And of course, I appreciate you coming back.
Absolutely.
And election season is coming up.
Election season is coming up, and I'll be, if extended the opportunity.
You and Committeewoman Greenwood, y'all gonna be staples here.
I'll be back, and let's continue the conversation in real time, so to speak. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And you enjoy that wedding. I can't wait to see the pictures, baby. That's gonna be a beautiful bride.
I'm ready to get it over with. Absolutely.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for tuning in today to Pros in Politics Podcast, where we are polished and poised for greatness and impact. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and you'll join us again next week. But in the meantime, please like, love, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you next Friday.